Hi, Stephen Rogers here. Thank you so much for clicking through the video. You must have wanted more information about what I learned from being a Warren Buffett executive and CEO, and what I learned being an entrepreneur over the many years that I've run businesses, and combining all of those things from corporate America and at the ground level of really making an impact and difference in my life and the lives around me. I've also had many scars along the way. I've had many things that didn't work. I've had many failures. And I've had many things that have made me a stronger person, both spiritually, mentally, and physically. And I've had massive successes and triumphs along the years as well. And blending those all together in my life, I feel really proud and really great about where I am as a human being and where it is I want to evolve to. But today, we wanted to talk more about tips about some of the things I took away from being a Warren Buffett CEO and executive. See, after 15 years of rising through a company that I started as a branch manager in San Diego in a real estate industry and evolved over a 15-year career learning massive amounts of information about real estate, people, leadership, acquisitions and mergers, helping develop and grow people, hire sales teams, marketing, financials, profit and loss, budget, and then also downsizing companies and what it is to dismantle organizations, and then what it is to grow again. And all of those many things I learned from experiences I had being part of a Warren Buffett company, as well as being my own entrepreneur. So some of the things that I took away that I thought would be good sharing with you today would be that Mr. Warren Buffett has a few quotes that I've pulled, and he has many, but I wanted to share a few. One you may have heard, but he says, when the tide goes out, you really get to see who's swimming naked. Now that's quite a visual that I'm sure we all go, whoa. But what he means by that is, in our businesses, in our lives, when things are not going so well, and when the markets are down, and when things crash, what is it that you're doing as an individual to survive and swim through the tide and realize that you can swim back to shore? Or are you just swimming naked and you feel like you want to run from the world and that you're exposed as you would? So always be prepared as possibly as you can when you have issues of the tide going out. How do you overcome that? And how do you stay at your strongest level as an executive to make sure you're moving to a right place? Or as an entrepreneur, how do you make sure you're on the right path and surrounded by the right people? Another quote that he says is, rule number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. I think we would all like to make sure we have that in our lives in every stretch of the imagination. And many times, all of us want to make money, but sometimes we lose it. But if we can focus on, if you're in business and if you're trying to make a difference, what can you do to not lose money? And if you are losing money, what can you do to adjust? What can you do to cut your losses and move forward? Or what can you do to reinvent or modify things so that that doesn't continue to happen? Another quote that he has is, it's an old principle, he says, but you don't have to make it the way you lost it. You don't have to make it the way you lost it. So don't keep beating your head against the wall if it's not working. And if you lost money in a certain venture or a certain division or a certain department or a certain startup or whatever it might be, find a different way. Find another path and go in a new direction and get out of the box that you might have been in and reinvent yourself. I have found that reinvention can be really exhilarating. But let's jump into some of the other top tips that I learned from Mr. Buffett. The 3 we're going to cover today is driving revenue, number 1. Number 2, how do you leverage the market? And number 3, how do you get your biggest ROI for your company? So those are all some really great things that Mr. Buffett, the teachings I learned being an executive, and many people along the way have stressed. But many of these things Warren Buffett writes about, speaks about, or he has in his leadership groups as people are learning through his organization. So let's talk about driving revenue. He has something that he says, hire well, manage little. Hire well, manage little. This means if you're going to hire the right people on the seats on the bus, let them do their job. Let them focus forward and move in what they do really well, and make sure you're putting people in leadership positions that are going to make a difference. And that goes for salespeople. If you are your own salesperson running your own business, make sure you are making sure that you're spending time and focusing on things that are going to help build your business and that you're on the right seat on the bus. Sometimes you need to outsource that. Sometimes you need to bring in a commissioned salesperson. Sometimes you need to adjust how you're closing your sale or how you're engaging with clients. Another thing that he talks about is making sure you're striving to have the best product and service. Now, we've all heard that, and we've all heard that 100 times, but continually focusing on what it is your experience of your product or your service can do that's exceptional above your competitors or what they can get out all other places. And what can you do to exceed expectations? That will bring your clients back to you time and time again, ultimately driving revenue. Also, market your good news. When you have good news from clients, client testimonials, and in these days of Yelp and all these various reviews that are people instantly on social media about how they believe about you, do your very best to try and get raving reviews and publish them and play it up to the hilt so other people can hear about your good news, which in turn drives revenue. And then also reinvest back in your business. When you are making profits and you're getting revenue, drive it back into your business. Invest back into your processes, your systems, into the marketing funnels and channels that are working so you can drive more potential contacts to get leads, to get engagements, to then close the customer to get more sales. So those are some of the tips and things that we had along the way. It's not brain surgery, but it is something difficult to do, even though it's easy to understand. The next category I want to talk about is how to leverage the market at all times for yourself and your business. That's a tough one. The market is constantly changing. But a few tips that Mr. Buffett had, and there's a great little book that I wanted to share as well, and it's called Warren Buffett Speaks. And it actually is by a woman named Janet Lau. And it's some great little quotes, tidbits, and information, and it reiterizes some of the things that I learned along the way from Mr. Buffett. But this particular tip here is how to leverage the market at all times. Have a philosophy. Mr. Buffett clearly has a philosophy. He stands by his philosophy, he believes in his philosophy, and he understands how to hold stocks, how to buy companies, and how to ride the storm out. And he also does it in a fairly conservative way, but he's done it in a very smart way. He's one of the most successful entrepreneurs and wealthy men in the world, so his philosophy obviously works, but he sticks to it. Also, make sure you understand about meeting Mr. Market. He had one of his mentors, which was Mr. Graham, and Mr. Graham was a mentor and a teacher for him. But he says the market changes, and you as a business owner, business leader, entrepreneur, executive, have to meet Mr. Market. And you have to meet Mr. Market on its own terms, on his or her own terms in the marketplace. And the market in this particular philosophy has its own personality, like it's its own entity. And if you realize you have to adjust your sales regardless of what the market is doing, that can be very powerful to make sure you are absolutely leveraging the market and working around it. The other thing to remember is don't forget that Mr. Market has moods. Highs and lows, happy, sad, angry, all of those things. And so how are you going to work through the market when Mr. Market's moods are affecting your business? Have a strategy, have a plan, and have a focus. Also, ignore Mr. Market's moods. So even though you have to understand that they exist, what is it you can do to ignore those and stay on course with your own practice and your own dedication to your philosophy? I also want to talk about here that he says, listen for opportunity. Mr. Buffett obviously is always looking for opportunity, and he seeks them out, he smells them out, he takes action, he moves upon them. But in your own businesses, you have to continually listen for opportunities and know when to take action yourself. Also, here's a very, very big one. Know the difference between price and value. Know the difference between price and value. And he went on to say that price is what you pay and value is what you get. Price is what you pay and value is what you get. And that goes for your clients, that goes for your salespeople, that goes for you, whether you're hiring vendors or various products. You absolutely have to know what the difference between price and value is. And if you aren't clear on that and not really specifically on what your return on that is, then you should not be making that decision. And more than likely, your clients won't be either. So again, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And number 3, let's go into this next category. How do you get the biggest ROI for your company? How do you get the biggest return on revenue, ROI, for your company? Well, number 1, have great people, but even have better systems. Have great people, but have better systems. And then also focus on earnings, 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 earnings. Always be looking at that bottom line. If you're running a business, you're there to make a profit. Profit is a good word. Profit is a good word. And sometimes we don't make profits as business owners, and it's painful. I've been in both places where I've made profits and where I haven't made profits. And I can tell you that it's much more fun making profits. You get a lot more choices and a lot more freedom. But also you want to make sure you're investing back in your people. When you're making profits and you're getting these earnings, invest back in your people for better sales skills, better techniques. Or if you're a small individual business owner, make sure that you're investing back into your own business, as I talked about in another category. And number 1, put a premium on experience. A premium on experience. Whether that's hiring mentors or coaches, whether that is hiring the best technology people you can, whether that's using your own knowledge and experience, but put a real premium on that, because it could save you hundreds of thousands of dollars in what not to do and what to avoid or what to do sooner than later. And another thing to make sure that you are getting your biggest ROI is anything you can track and measure, you can improve upon. Again, hear me. Anything you can track and measure, you can improve upon. This means you have to look at everything from the units to the sales to the cost of doing business, how long something's staying in inventory, how quickly it's being recycled back through the sales funnel. Are you able to monetize what the expense and profit is for every single unit of something you sell in your business? And if you can track and measure those items, and you're looking at everything that you're doing from processes, people, and systems, and then where you're investing your money, you will be able to tell month after month and quarter after quarter where you're getting these returns and where you should adjust your sales, quite frankly, because we don't have to keep doing the same thing. The beauty of looking and tracking things is you get to modify every week or every month if you choose to, and then you move forward in a new way. So those are some of the tips that I took away being part of a Warren Buffett organization. There was many, many, many more, and I will be sharing those on some of the future videos, but I wanted to start with those today. And if you'd like to learn more about what I'm doing or what I'm sharing with others, feel free to click on this link below. There's another link for you, and the link takes you to an application. I'm taking on a select few group of people right now for a complimentary business review audit. And I'm doing this to make sure that I'm paying things forward. You see, I've had many mentors in my day, and I still have them to this day. Beyond Mr. Warren Buffett and the many people in that organization and the entrepreneurs that I learned from as they started that company, I also have people like Mr. Brian Tracy, who's written over 40 sales books, who's been a mentor and a coach of mine for years and a personal friend. People like Mark Thompson, who helped Charles Schwab build his business and has written many books and is just a phenomenal friend and mentor to me. People like Marshall Goldsmith, who is one of the top business coaches in the country, who currently has a best-selling New York Times and Wall Street book out now called Triggers, has been just a great person to me that has done many things for me in my life. And then someone like John Assaraf, who was involved in the book The Secret and went on to write The Answer and is his own successful entrepreneur. But these people have been very generous to me over the years, paying it forward and helping give me advice or give me direction when I needed it, and have just been great mentors in being very gracious in their time. So I want to continue to carry that forward as I build my business and I grow my consulting practice, and as I stay as a leader, to pay this forward to others. So what I'm doing is taking on a small group of people over the next month who can apply. You get this half-hour business audit, which we will look at where you're at, where you're going, where you'd like to be, and possibly what's working, what's not. I will assess it very quickly. I will give you some hardcore tips and success ideas that you might have, and some concrete items that I think can help you in your business to move forward.